This is what it looks like when everything you own will fit into a 10 by 20 foot box. We're talking about criminals, people. They're all over the world. And it seems like when criminals are caught, people expect judges and attorneys to play the roles of getting them off so they can go free or locking their ass up. But now we're talking about common criminals. We're not talking about state-sponsored criminals. So if you put a judge behind the bench and that judge is in charge of locking up a criminal, let's just say that criminal steals a radio that belonged to you. That's your personal property. And you expect the judge, if you file a complaint, if you file a police report, and it goes before a judge, you expect that judge to do what's right. You expect him to lock that criminal up if the sentence calls for that. Some of them cause probation. Some sentences cause for a fine. Most sentences, depending on how many times you've been to jail and what the severity of the crime is, will call for jail time. And the judge will give them that if they feel that's what they got coming. But let's suppose, people, that the criminal is a judge. Let's suppose the criminals or the crime involves attorneys. And let's suppose that the attorneys are conspiring with the judge, and the judge is conspiring with attorneys to take your property. If someone steals my truck, if someone steals my wife Lynn's car, and we report it to the police, and the police find those vehicles, and there's fingerprints on them or whatever, and they can identify the crook, and they catch the crook, when they go before that judge, you expect that judge to do the right thing. But like I say, let's suppose the crime is real estate property. And let's say the crook or the criminal is the judge himself. Okay? Let's say the judge conspires with a group of attorneys to steal your real estate property. No, it's not property or personal property that you can just pick up and walk away with. It's not that type of property. But let's just suppose that they have you to clear your property out, your real estate property out, and you end up putting it in a place like this. Okay? You own your own property, but you're in a situation like this because of the judge. What do you think about that? Do you think, let's just put it this way, let's say that a person files an affidavit. Now, everyone knows that affidavits are supposed to be truthful and material. But let's say someone tells a lie or files false statements, is the way they put it, in an affidavit. And your attorney has prepared and presented that affidavit to the court. And then the court takes a look at it and say, okay, let's move forward with this. Let's suppose that the false statement claims that they own part of your real estate property because it was left to them in a will. So they're not saying the whole damn thing. They're saying half of it because it was left to them in a will. You, as a person, the court as an entity of the state, okay, the judge as an employee of the state, okay, these situations require these people, these entities, to make sure that the truth is exposed. Bottom line, you expect them, and they're supposed to be responsible, okay, for making sure that the truth is basically disclosed. But the person has let's say, filed their affidavit saying that your property was partly theirs because of an affidavit. And then all of a sudden, this case run for 5 years. It goes before the Supreme Court twice. And then at trial, the truth comes out. The person that filed the affidavit saying that your property was in this will has never, ever shown a copy of this will to anyone, not the judge, not the attorneys, no one. But when you get to trial, they say, okay, your property is not in the will. And they say that more than one time. Do you expect the judge, okay, do you expect the judge to dismiss that case? But suppose the judge is conspiring with the other party's attorney, the person that lied in the first place. Suppose the judge is conspiring with them and he will not dismiss the case. Suppose you're sitting at trial and because he did not dismiss the case on her word, suppose you explain to the judge that the Supreme Court send us to the court to trial for the court to verify this person's false claim. And then the judge tells you, well, I don't have a copy of the will either. Okay, so now you got a person that is told a lie on an affidavit, which is perjury. They're saying that they have a copy of a will that your property is in. Then they get to trial and say, okay, three times. They said your property is not in the will. And then the judge say, well, I don't have a copy of the will. What do you expect to happen? Should that court throw that case out? Should that court charge this lady with perjury or this person with perjury? What do you think should happen, people? This is real. This is where I've ended up, in a damn storage unit because of a situation like this. Okay? You have people that have conspired to steal my real estate property through fraud, and they accomplished this thanks to the court. The judge's name, Douglas County District Court Judge Dwayne C. Doherty. The lead attorney's name for this liar, Matthew P. Satoff with the Satoff Law Firm, or the Satoff Law Group, however you want to put it. It's at 440 Regency Parkway Drive in Omaha, Nebraska. I think the zip code is 68114. The point is, this judge, and even though I removed this case to federal jurisdiction because I could see it was a racist court and I could see the judge was racist, everything on that opposing side was racist. They're all white. I'm the only black pea in the black-eyed pea pot. Think about that. Okay? These people steal my property, obtained through fraud, put it on the market to be sold, and it's all thanks to the judge conspiring with these attorneys. Should this judge go to jail? Should this judge be charged with a crime? It can't be disputed that he violated my wife and my civil rights in order to accomplish this goal. What case do you know where a person say, okay, this property is in a will and I own property, half of it. At the same time, all they got to do is show the will to prove it. This case is 7 years old. Not once has anyone ever seen the will. This lady get to trial and testify truthfully under sworn oath to tell the truth that my property or my wife and my property was not in the will. The judge directly looks in my eyes and tell me the court doesn't have a copy. So we're not going to consider the will here today because I don't have one. Excuse me, Your Honor, Judge Doherty, we are in your courtroom because of the will. This case was started because of the will. How the heck are you going to sit there and tell me that you're not going to consider the will? We're not going to discuss the will. because you don't have one. The hell with that. Okay? I want America to understand what happened in this case. And I don't mean to put so much emphasis on you, Your Honor, or on Mr. Sathoff. But Mr. Sathoff is the one that caused all this. He sucked this woman's money up. He could see what I believe was her, let's see, how do you put that? I don't want to cut her down, but she's not the type of person that can see you coming with a stick until you hit her. And that's what Matthew Sathoff figured out. The woman had a lot of money, and he saw a way to bleed her. And the only way that he could do this was to keep this case going. Well, it's gone for 7 years. He's made a lot of money off that woman. Now they've taken my property to sell it, and I believe the judge is going to split the pot. I believe the referee in charge of the case is going to, James E. Reisinger, on I think it's 7602 Pacific Street in Omaha, Nebraska. I believe he is going to split the pot. I believe the original attorney that started this case, John C. Chatelain, I believe he is going to split the pot. I've hired 2 sets of attorneys. Both of them ended up working with the opposing party against my wife and me. I don't think they're going to split the pot. They've already beat us out of near $40,000. So they could care less. But how do you take one piece of paper, supposedly a will, that never existed, and you admitted this at trial? How do you take one piece of paper, an affidavit, that's, when it contains false statements, it's void? But this attorney was able to prop this up, and he got the court to go along with him. He got the judge to go along with him. Okay, and they obtained my property through fraud. My wife, my property through fraud. This is really, really crazy. Okay, October 21st, I could see what was going on. They had already violated our civil rights, which made the case become a federal question. And under a federal question, you can remove the case from the state court to federal jurisdiction. We did this on October 21st, 2024. And as soon as you remove it to federal jurisdiction, everything that the state court is doing supposed to come to an immediate halt. But instead of doing that, Judge Doherty gave James Reisinger, the referee, the go ahead and lock us out of our property. Luckily, we was able to get the majority of our stuff out. That's the only thing I'll give Reisinger credit for. He did allow us the extra time to get our belongings out, the majority of it. So I give him props on that. But he's one of those people that supposedly reached the Bible, and we all know where that leads. Okay, the Ku Klux Klan used to read the Bible every time they hung a black, or what they call a Negro. So him reading the Bible and putting it out there, constantly telling me in his emails, yeah, I'm going to read the word, and my son and I, we go to choir, and we're in the choir, and all this kind of crap, had nothing to do with the case. I mean, just tell me what you want me to do, and whatever. What you guys have done is committed a crime. It's simple as that. They committed what's called a white-collar government scam. It's as simple as that. This is real estate we're talking about. You're dealing with financial institutions. Is what we're talking about. Okay? These people took our real estate property through fraud. They obtained it through fraud, and they put it on the market. Now, the first guy that apparently they sold it to, I went and spoke with the guy's sister, and I let her know that, yes, the property is on the market, but it was on the market because it was obtained through fraud. So I told her, I said, it's against the law to sell property obtained through fraud. I said, and you can be arrested for it. I explained to her that her brother could be arrested for purchasing property obtained through fraud. And he can, especially if you go to register that property under your name, simply because it becomes federal because it involves financial institutions. And I don't see how he can get around that. Anyone that want to purchase that property, I don't see how they can get around that. So it's a criminal act that's still in the making. And no matter how many times I've gone to the police department, the sheriff's department, I've even spoke with called the Attorney General's office in Lincoln, Nebraska. All this is taking place in Omaha. Everyone seems to tell me that they don't know what they can do. They can't do anything. It's a civil matter. It's a bunch of crap, you know. But they did manage to do one thing. They broke us. They broke us. They left us financially in a heck of a hole. We've had a few nights we slept in the truck. We ran all our credit cards completely empty, trying to stay in a motel. The temperature was, below 10, below 20, stuff like that. So, but everything we have, I'm making this video because I'm sitting here at the storage unit. I'm sitting here at the storage unit. The name of the storage is showing. The the door number is showing. So I have to watch out for that. We're in a situation where I have to watch my every step. Even going to the doctor, I don't know, Omaha carries itself to be a large city, but it's not. It's small. It's very small. Everybody know each other, and that's why these attorneys work together, because they all know each other. So it's one of those situations where it's hard to know what you want to do. You want the law to step in and sort of make this right, but every judge in the building are there, and this isn't the first judge I've dealt with that's shown the system itself is corrupt. The system itself, you've heard the term structural racism, but very few people, and I've asked around, very few people have heard the term structural racism. That's when it's the core of the state. That's them. That's the state. It's their policy. Every entity in the state abides by it, especially when it comes up against a black person. That's exactly what has happened in this case. I'm fighting against a system where everything works and clicks together. That's why the judge could sit there and say, well, I don't have a will, so we're not going to consider the will here today. How can you say that when this woman lied on her affidavit saying my property was in a will? She sat here in front of you, less than 10 to 15 feet away from you, and admitted that on three separate occasions that it wasn't in the will. And if you go to hounddognews.org and look at the trial transcripts, you'll see that. Look in May 23rd, 2024. 2023, May 23rd. And you can read the transcript for yourself. She sat there and said that my property wasn't in the will. If you go to the case evidence and look for the affidavit, you'll see line 5, she said my property was in the will. And that's what started this thing. So for the judge to sit there, caused me to lose all of my money, put my storage, everything I have in storage, and for him to sit there and say, okay, we're not going to consider the will here today because I don't have one. What is wrong with this? We have no money left. Her attorney, I filed a lawsuit against him. Of course, it's not like I haven't seen this before either. They set a black judge on the bench. Now they say that when you file a lawsuit, the selection of the judge is random. Okay? I filed a lawsuit against the woman. I filed a lawsuit against the attorney. What are the chances that I would end up with the same judge on both these lawsuits, both these cases? a black female judge. You see, what are the opportunities? I mean, what are the chances that that would happen? So, of course, being smart, I dismissed the case against her. Okay, I dismissed the case against her without prejudice, which means I can refile it later. And yes, I am going to do that. But her attorney came in. He brought an attorney from Fraser Stryker or something like that. I have to look that up. I'll put it on another episode. But she brought this guy in. I mean, Matt Sathoff brought this guy in, and he had the same documents that Matt Sathoff has used in Miss Humphrey's case. And what they're doing, they come in with stacks of paper, and they tell the judge, "Well, I had to do all this, so I deserve this much money in attorney fees and all that." So when Mr. whoever the guy is with Fraser Stryker, when he showed up in court, asking the judge to give him 3,000 and some, I think it was $3,400 in attorney fees or something like that. The judge asked me, did I have any objection to it? And I told her yes. You know, because now I'm reading this and I'm looking in there where he has his credentials on there, where he went to school. That I don't give a damn. You think I'm going to pay you because you went to school somewhere? And you're telling me that that's part of why the bill is so high? Because you had to go to school somewhere? Did you go between the time you defended Matt Sathoff and the time you asked for the money? No. You went to school years ago. That shouldn't be in there. And I told the judge, I said, you know, I said, plus the documents that he has sitting there, those are the same documents Matt Sathoff brought in here. I said, so he didn't work on that. So instead of giving them $3,400, the judge said, well, you're entitled to $1,100. Well, that's over a $2,000 drop. So a lot of people don't realize that these attorneys use the same documents over and over and make it appear as if they worked on this when they didn't. Okay, and so I waited on him to send the bill. I haven't seen it so far. I don't know if he's planning on just possibly getting it out of the sale of the house or what. But one thing I want you to know is when a person obtains your real estate property through fraud, once the whole ball game is over, the house go back to the rightful owner. And so I'm just taking my time, letting everything play out. I'm going to be filing police reports so I can go back to the prosecutor again, hopefully to get them locked up this time. But in the meantime, I'm broke. We have no money to pay our bills with or anything now. Lynn's family is helping us a little bit. One of my brothers helped us a little bit, but we can't depend on these people forever. And so I've set up a GoFundMe. Hopefully, you know, some people will look at it and say, well, okay, you know, especially after they start seeing episode 2. Now, episode 2, when I get that out, I don't want all of my episodes to run a long time. Okay, I want to bring them down to where they run like 20, maybe 30 minutes tops. But episode 2 is going to run close to an hour, and I'm doing this because I want to introduce you to the case itself, exactly what happened, and then after that I can break it down and say, well, okay, this happened on the affidavit. Then the next episode I can say, well, this happened on the complaint for petition. And then the next episode, but this is what Nicole Sigma did. So I want to break each episode down to show what each individual did in that case. But the most of my focus is going to be on Judge Doherty and Matthew P. Sathoff. I want you to know this. And Matthew P. Sathoff handpicked the referee, James Reisinger, to sell my real estate property. So this is going to be my focus, people. Right now, financially, yes, we're hurting. Should we be? No, we should not. Because the woman lied on her affidavit to get this case started. And the judge he disregarded her testimony at trial, same way he disregarded what the Supreme Court asked him to do on May 27th of 2022. If you go online and look at Humphrey versus Smith online, or visit hounddognews.org and look at the Nebraska Supreme Court. Okay, you will see the Supreme Court was laser focused on two issues really. If Dunn Humphrey forgave the loan, but if Barbara Humphrey did not show her ownership to the title, she had no right to a petition on my property. And the court, Judge Doherty, never allowed that to be addressed at the trial itself. Okay? So yes, financially, we are hurting. I can't deny that. And I hate to ask anybody for anything. But I'm going to ask you folks to help us. And I'm hoping that as I explain this case in the future episodes, I'm hoping that you will understand how this can happen to anyone. If when you're in a state where the court of that state practice structural racism, okay, it's something that we all should be concerned about. Because this has happened to me, and it's not the first time. It's the first time it's happened with real estate property that I own, this was only one. But it's just the fact it has never it has happened to me before. Okay, in an auto accident. And on down the line, I'm going to explain that to you. So I appreciate you guys visiting here with me. You can see everything we have is in here. If we want anything, we have to wish for it because, it's not going to just come from the front out. And when you pile everything out here, you got to put everything back in. You don't, right now it's cold. We're in basically the end of January of 2025. It's cold out. I got a lucky break today, and that's why I'm here making this video. So if at all possible, I'm hoping you guys can help me. If at all possible, I'm hoping you guys will click on subscribe, hit the little notification bell so you can follow me. And if at all possible, as my episodes come out, I'm hoping I can interest you in a way that will help protect yourself and help you make a decision on, do I want to help these people? Okay? Until next episode, I appreciate your time.